There's an old countryman saying that the grey partridge is a sign of the health of the countryside. If we have them around, all is well. If we lose them, we do so at our peril. And I think that saying is still very true today.
We know that since the early 1980s, grey partridge populations across Europe have declined by 94%. Think about that for a moment. 94% less than they were in the early 1980s. And now, as we speak, we think there is about maximum 30,000 pairs, so 60,000 birds left in the spring. It is very dramatic. And if we don't do anything now, if we don't act, we risk losing the grey partridge for good.
So the partridge count is really important for various reasons. Mostly it's of use to the people who do the count themselves, the farmers and the landowners and the gamekeepers. They need to know how the numbers of partridges on their estates are changing over time, whether the habitats that they've put into place are producing chicks. So if they've got enough insects in whatever type of chick food habitat they're put in, whether they've got enough nesting cover, so how well they're holding on to their spring pairs. So it's for them to make really management decisions, but it's also important that we as the trust and, ecologists in general, know how partridges are faring across the country, across a large number of estates, because this kind of information can help tell us whether the sorts of agri-environment policy or our research needs to address different things. So it's very important that we have this kind of a finger on the pulse of what the grey partridge is doing across the country. But I was lucky enough to go on my first partridge count with Dick Potts. And for those people who were lucky enough to know Dick, who's no longer with us, he was so enthusiastic, and I don't know how many partridges, how many thousands and hundreds of thousands of partridges he'd seen by that time. But when he took you around to show you partridges, or as we were counting together, it was just so exciting.
It's very important for us to relate our knowledge of insect density and the effects of spraying to the yield of the crop. And this is the sort of information we collect jointly with the farmers. In fact, the enthusiasm and help given by the farmers, farm workers and gamekeepers is so great that we think of them now as an integral part of our team.
Well, this project here started in 2002 when Dick Potts came into my office, and he'd been counting the grey partridges here since the 1960s. It's one of the oldest arable count surveys. And he came into my office in a terrible state and he said, "Eddie, unless you do something, the grey partridge will be extinct on the whole of the South Downs within 5 years." And I replied, apparently, "Dick, that's not going to happen on my watch." And that's really how the project started. And we actually had 11 partridges. We had one covey on our estate here at Peppering then. That spring we had 3 pairs. Walker's dog took out 1 hen. We were down to 2 pairs. And that was really the starting point. Within 9 years, we'd gone from 3 pairs to 2,000 grey partridges. I think the truth is this recovery of a red-listed bird species, the grey partridge here, from near extinction to abundance and shootable surplus. It's one of the greatest success stories of red-listed bird revival anywhere in Europe.
It's quite clear to see. One thing we've done here is we've monitored from day one. So we've monitored invertebrates, we've monitored bird numbers, we've monitored the red-listed flora as well. And so we've got the science to back up what we're doing, and it's quite clear to see that what we're doing is working. We've restored this area of countryside to a healthy balance.
When I first came here 30 years ago, there was an evening when I was outside putting the roof rack on the car, and I could hear a quail singing in the fields just over there. I could hear grey partridges up where we are now, and I could hear a stone curlew going up to forage on the top of the hill. The stone curlews have gone from this part of the world, and the grey partridges all but disappeared until a serious attempt at revival was taken on. These days, I hear grey partridges in the evening when I step outside the house, just as I did when we first came here. For a long period in between, I very rarely did.
we've got to come together like never before. We've got to turn around this collapse in nature, and we've got to save it for the future generations.
It's really important that some advice and somebody comes out and helps the farmer make a decision, because often the habitats that they're going to have to put in are going to be the ones that are not the easy habitats to get right. So if it's a conservation headland, how are they going to manage those pernicious weeds that are going to show up? They will show up. You need to know how to do these things. So having advice to do it and having encouragement from somebody who's seen it happen on other estates and knows the kind of work it is, I think that's really important to try to get farmers to do this.
Each autumn, as we do our final counts, we see that partridge numbers vary enormously from farm to farm, and we can reflect on the complexity of the different factors and how they interrelate. Food for the chicks is obviously of the utmost importance, but if there is too little nesting cover, too much nest predation, or cold wet weather at hatching, there'll be fewer chicks needing the food in the first place. We certainly haven't got all the answers yet, and with agricultural trends constantly changing, we discover a few more pieces for the puzzle each year. The partridge is invaluable as an ecological barometer, constantly showing what we're doing to wildlife on our farmland. They will never again be as abundant as they were at the end of the last century, but the better we understand their ecology and the ecology of farmland, the more we can do to ensure their survival.
What we need is people to come forward and approach us and ask us for help. We have studied this grey partridge for decades. We can proudly claim that we are the experts on grey partridge conservation and how to recover it and what this means for farmland biodiversity. We want to hear more skylarks, we want to hear more whitethroats, we want to see more grey partridges, we want to live in a healthy environment. Because why? Because many of us don't realise it makes us happy. It is something extremely, profoundly satisfactory to walk through a nice, diverse landscape. What we need from supporters and members is for them to come forward, provide the means to allow us to spread the word, to go out to as many farms as we possibly can and share our knowledge to help people succeed in restoring the grey partridge.